Good evening, everyone. What controversial opinion do you enjoy sharing with others? Well, if that question piques your interest, join us for another episode of Two Average Joes with your host from Lake Havasu, Arizona, Tony P., and from Long Beach, California, Joe Kelly. So, do me a favor, grab your favorite beverage, kick back and relax for the next hour. Without further ado, I bring you Two Average Joes.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, how you doing today?
Doing well.
Good deal.
Doing well.
I've got a fact for you. Clouds
What is it?
float. Even though a cumulus, those big fluffy white clouds you see is called a cumulus cloud, weighs
Right.
more than 1.1 million pounds.
That's amazing. And yet a plane flies through that. So I don't understand science. So it must not be mass.
Well, moisture is mass though, but it's the way it's spread out. It's spread out in such a way that it's not concentrated in one pinpoint location. But yeah,
Got
it's
it.
like, I mean, if you ever wonder about the weight of water, I've scuba dove one time in my life and we only went down 12 feet, but holy smokes, the pressure you feel after 10 feet. I can't imagine. My friends have told me, yeah, I went 100 feet. I'm like, dude, he goes, well, you got to build up to that. You have to acclimate to it. So that was pretty damn cool, I thought.
So, and that would be the cause of turbulence when you're going through the clouds like that? Or is that just sheer wind?
No, I think that is probably differences in atmospheric pressure because you've got hot and cold fronts hitting each other and causing ripples in the atmosphere and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff is what does that. You know, just all those different things. Yeah. So
Wild.
well, now I asked that question as we came in. What controversial opinions do you enjoy sharing with others? Well, look, we've got a guest here. Let's bring him in.
Who we got? Is that Chef Rick? There he is. That's his name.
Well, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr.
We're
James.
doing
It's nice
well.
to have you.
So
Long time no
Joe,
see.
you were mentioning controversial subjects.
Yeah, I was asking a question. It's like, what controversial opinions do you enjoy sharing with others that you feel is controversial, but you share them anyway?
God, you know what? I pick and choose still. Like I'll talk about controversial stuff, but I still somewhat know where to draw the line on respect. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to bum someone's trip just because I think differently. So I'll gauge that leeway. Rick, you're a pretty straightforward guy, right?
Yeah, I pick and choose my battles these days too. I don't like to argue just to argue. Try to stay off the religion and politics stuff that always sparks a heavy argument. Anything regarding opinions in the hospitality industry, I'm pretty able to voice my opinion on usually.
You know what? Real quick, I wasn't even going to bring this up because I know other than people in the business, it probably bores them. But I just read this and it can't get it out of my mind. This guy, high end chef, Vegas, right, making a ton of money, blah blah blah. And he's like, but I got to put up with all the bullshit. I got to write people up for being late when they're actually good employees, and I got to play the whole HR game. And he goes, when I would really just want to fucking cook. And he goes, and now I figured out how smart my sous chef is, because he goes, my sous chef is even better than me, but he turns down promotion after promotion after promotion. And I asked him, he goes, dude, why don't you want to move up? He goes, because I want to cook.
Right.
I don't want to be in the office on the phone.
Well, my daughter is a orthodontics technician, so but she's state certified, board certified. So that means that she can do every single thing that an orthodontist can do, every single thing. And so what she does, she gets paid just a buku, Dolores, to go in, and she'll sit in a chair and do something, and she'll say, okay, and the orthodontist comes over and approves it, and it's done. And I said, well, why don't you want to get your license? She goes, because I don't want to have overhead. I don't want to have employee worries and all that crap going on. I come in, I do my job, I punch out, and I go play with big money. And she goes, if I want to work 3 days a week or 4 days a week, I do. She's got a rich boyfriend, so that helps. But I mean, she calls her shots because of that situation. So I'm kind of agree with it. I mean, I had more time. Be honest with you, Tony, I would have rather stayed a bartender and maybe have some shifts as a server than go into management. Probably make better money, but it's just like less headaches to worry about, you know?
I just loved managing. I just fucking, it was the bee's knees. Is that what these young kids say now?
Yeah, young kids.
Or was that my grandparents? Could have been.
Now, as far as me, the opinions that I love to share are the idea of extraterrestrials, especially because I'm in a lot of circles with a lot of Christians. And I'll say that, they'll look at me like, how can you believe that? I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, what does one have to do with the other? You know, so it's like
Right.
I'm of the opinion it's like, look, there's as many stars, which are basically our sun is a star. There's as many stars in the sky as there are grains of sand on a beach. So you're going to tell me that there's only one planet that's in the Goldilocks zone in all
Right.
those billions of planets? I'm sorry, I do not believe that.
Right. It's borderline blasphemy to think that if this the a God that is so almighty, someone that could create Earth. Okay, so let's just go whether you believe it or not. Let's just go with the fact that everybody believes that the single-minded attitude to think that he just stopped there, as incredible as we are. Rick, aliens? Do you? I know you've had to work with some probably even, but do you believe?
Yeah, I really do. A long-time listener, probably 20 years now, Coast to Coast AM overnight. I've heard a lot of different opinions. Just think time, the universe, everything is too vast and too big
Hey,
for there
Tony,
not to be.
so Rick was telling us about your belief in extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, I think it's definitely too hard for me to mark down in one single opinion. But I definitely don't believe the short scale narrative we've been led to believe, at least in my lifetime. It's too vast, too many unanswered questions. I think the pyramids are at least 20,000 years old. Definitely think there's some kind of alien life out there, even if we don't know about it. And maybe they took it upon themselves to have that anonymity. I don't know. Hard to say.
Well, I recommend, and it was one of the best movies I've seen in a while because I believe in it totally, was Disclosure Day, an amazing film about that same idea of having lots of information from years and years since the 40s, since Roswell in Area 51,
Sure.
from that on the way up, and them having documentation, having pictures, all this different stuff, and trying to this race away from this corporation who's been profitizing off of this stuff and trying to get to the people and have one disclosure. It seems to me that there's too many things that have happened that can't be explained. I mean, you look at not just pyramids, but my friend just went to Machu Picchu. And he was up there. He took the hike up into there, and he's like a 1 week trek up into it. And some of the pictures came back. These stones are a couple of, to 20, 30 tons a piece, and there's no mortar used, and they're free form. They're not straight lines. Some of them are curved, and you can't fit a piece of paper in between each one of them. Okay, this is on top of a mountain peak. All right. Let's just say that, they just rolled them up or they pulled them up with rope. Bullshit. I'm sorry. There's a lot more that's happened. I mean, the way that the belt of Orion is in perfect alignment, the way that the three pyramids of Giza line up. It's all done. Even in the Bible, the oldest book in the Bible is Job. And this guy got all kinds of crap happen to him. They mentioned the Pleiades, which is called the Seven Sisters, and also Orion's belt. So, I mean, this is mentioned 3,000 years ago. They talk about this stuff. So there's a lot more to it than people think. And, we'd be naive to think that we are so special. We're the only ones created in a vast universe.
I think what stands out to me, it's always been so take the length of history, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But if you look at the progress from the mid 40s on through till now, in comparison to the length of time prior, we had to get a kickstart in our knowledge somewhere. Someone just didn't wake up one day and start whipping up all this crazy shit. And then, taking computers from what would have been like practically a warehouse down to the end of my pen, right? The military equipment we have. And believe me, we have more than we even know. All that laser, all that Star Trek shit, that's all active. And I just think somewhere along the line, we had to get this kickstart where they back, what do they call that when they back build something?
Reverse engineer.
Right.
Reverse engineer.
So,
See, to me, that's when you see these, they show the ship that goes up and left and right and left. It's because we're idiots. We don't know how to drive the damn thing. We figured out how to make it. We're just trying to figure out the driving instructions. Okay, we'll get this down. And the aliens are just kind of going, you give me a break, come on, please. Or bless your heart. They're in our sayings, bless your heart.
Yeah, the aliens like, I drive this bitch with my pinky.
That's right. No, I drive it with my mind, you idiot. You're driving your
Yeah,
hand.
I don't even know. That's awesome. Hey, Rick, I got a question for you.
Let's go.
Should individuals have the right to sell their organs? And of course, I'm not talking about musical instruments, more the internal. Should individuals have that right to sell their organs?
Absolutely. I think where that would be skeptical would be the judgment decision on whether it's right or wrong or in their best interest. But the right, who am I to say that they don't have the right? Absolutely. especially if it could benefit somebody else, Sure.
Yeah.
So a question
Sort of
about
torn
that.
on that.
Well, so what if by doing that, a situation occurs where they might need help from the state to take care of a situation? So should we be obligated to take care of them because of a poor decision?
That's
Mm,
kind of
I say no.
yeah, I agree. No.
I don't think we should either. It's like, hey, you made that decision.
I think when you're making a decision like this, I mean, this isn't like, am I going to get creamy or crunchy peanut butter? When you're making a decision like this, I'm pretty sure you've weighed out all the fucking things that could go wrong,
Yeah. I
right?
think so too, yeah.
Financially, health-wise. I mean, you just didn't just pick that decision out of your ass. And I'm sort of on the fence. I think it's yours. God, I'm so torn sometimes between my beliefs, right? Being like, well, it's really not yours, right, Joe? I mean, in a sense, I was given this.
That's the
and
way I look at it too. Yeah.
But God, that's tough. That's tough.
I think I definitely got.
I'd have to give it more thought.
I got tied down in the variables of that one.
Either one of you was when they created the chainsaw, it had some specific use. What do you think that might have been? Any guesses?
For the chainsaw?
Childbirth. Like it wasn't bad enough. The guy walks in with a fucking McCulloch, right? Ring.
That's a serious statement. They developed a chainsaw for pregnancy.
That is crazy.
I want to see how that works.
I don't think it'd be a weird protected industry. But then I think about what if somebody has brain cancer and 1 year to live and 2 healthy kidneys, they want to sell one to have the best year of their life before they die. There's so many touchy variables on that.
Yeah.
Also, what have we learned that making things illegal isn't always the exact answer? A lot of times that'll generate an industry of backdoor people. I'm sure people are selling organs in the world elsewhere where, it's not regulated. I don't know.
They still do. I mean, there was a show called Skin Deep or something like that. I forgot what it was. Make Me Beautiful. I forgot what it was. It was on an HBO show, and they were plastic surgeons.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the girls that was a nurse, hey, Tony, there was a nurse that was a plastic surgeon and assistant, and she went on a date with some guy, and he knocked her out. She woke up, and he had taken one of her kidneys.
Horrifying.
One kidney less. You can still survive with one kidney, but the problem is the person that I have a friend of mine that had a kidney transplant from his daughter, got it from her. And he's got to take drugs every day so his body doesn't reject it. But at the same time, because he's 70, I think he's 71 now, but because of his age, the drugs that he's taking,
that's not easy.
They cause squamous cell carcinoma on his head. So he's got these cancerous growths he's got to get constantly cut out on top of his head. So he doesn't even grow hair anymore, because every time I see him, he's got another scar. He's probably had 20 different procedures taken to stuff, and he says it's because of the medication I take. So, I mean, to me, honestly, we have to think about that. Yeah, it does extend life, but what quality of life do you have if you're stuck to taking pills all the time? I'm sorry.
Right.
I was given a set of hands. If they were to tell me, in fact, my wife thinks I'm an asshole for saying this, but it's like, hey, you might find out if I have cancer and I'm going to die just because things start happening to me. But I'm not going to, there's a certain amount of procedures that I can do, but why would I go to an extent of emptying my bank account, of spending all this money, what Medicare doesn't pay for, to live a couple of more years? No, I don't think so.
Miserable years. You left out miserable.
I had some of the best years of my life already. I had some of the best times I never remember. So it was actually a really good time, I think.
I'm with you, Joe. I would wrap up my affairs. I'd make sure everything's in play. Why spend money that I could leave to Twee to retire? To run around and be sick all the time. It's an easy question for me. Like Rick, they always ask, would you rather die instantly, right? Like a massive heart attack, a head-on collision, or would you rather have some illness and, a bit of a timeline? What say you, Rick?
Instantly, and I won't delve into it. You were around for a lot of the health scares I had about a decade ago. Also, recently with the job I'm doing, working in healthcare, I'm living in Colorado. Colorado is a right to a peaceful death state. So we administer a suicide cocktail to people that request it at the nursing home and places I work at. Tons of training to come with that. We hear the back and the forth of a lot of the arguments behind it, but it's a right to die peacefully state, and that's really, really interesting. I'm only 42, but I would leave on good terms.
Rick, can I ask, because we've all been in the hospitality business. Is there a particular garnish they put on those cocktails?
I don't know, but I'd like to elevate anything. I believe the residents deserve the best in any situation.
The olive pick is a cross.
Yeah. No, To be quite serious, it's completely, it's not regulated. It's not like Jack of Working. It's nothing like I thought. It's a little fizzy drink that looks like Alka-Seltzer. They set it by their bed, and they're welcome to drink it whenever they feel like it.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Wildest thing I've ever heard.
Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, huh?
Yeah.
How long? What's the reaction time?
Short. I hear less than 5 minutes.
Fall asleep.
Yep.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah, they don't administer it, like give it to them like a nurse. They give it to them, they set it by their bed, then it's up to them. They can drink it 10 minutes later that night, the next morning. But yeah, wild training I had to go through for all that. I'd never heard of that anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather know. I'd rather be able to get my ducks in a row and then, maybe find a cabin out on a lake somewhere, get some morphine. You know where I'm at if you want to visit. Otherwise, I'm just going to be enjoying God's nature on a different one of the different planets that he created.
Nice.
That's it.
Respect
But
that.
I would definitely feel better getting my ducks in a row. But that's just me.
Rick,
One
I have
other
a question.
Yo,
I have a question for Rick, real quickly. Which teacher
absolutely.
had the biggest impact on you, and why? Which teacher?
Senor Nickel, 6th grade, Spanish teacher. I took Spanish
Nice.
in magnet school for 8 years. It was definitely him. I learned a little bit of Spanish, but it was more just life lessons. He was the first person that really was patient, and not only would he not deal with my bullshit or co-sign my bullshit, he was patient enough to get me interested in school. Best teacher, best mentor, best guy in the educational program I ever had.
Wow.
Fantastic. Wow.
Nice. What say you, Tony P?
I probably had 2 or 3. One was 2nd grade, Mrs. Storms, but she was just like smoking hot, right? She was like this 70s girl, the boots, the long hair. Husband was like a hippie. And then in 6th grade, I had a teacher, 6th grade, just like Rick, Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin was a big guy, mustache, but he was just down to earth. Like, you know what I mean? He was just easy. And at that age, that's a very transitional period, right? You're getting ready to head off to middle school and stuff. And then in high school, I had a philosophy teacher, and he had a great impact. And but this was the 80s, right? He'd take us out and we'd go drinking beers and stuff. We'd go down to Greektown in Detroit. We'd have dinner. And, nowadays, you'd be front page of Facebook and in the Slammer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's why I didn't mention his name, by the way, out of respect. But that I would say those 3. But 2nd grade, Mrs. Storms, man, hot. She was like that girl. Who's the girl on that girl?
Marlo Thomas.
She was like a Marlo Thomas. Yes, bingo, Ringo.
I had a female calculus instructor for first semester calculus, and she was, and she just,
imagine.
I had such a crush on her because she was a smart chick. I mean, and she was decent, decent looking. She's good looking, but it was more of an attraction of that thing, And so I worked really hard. I got an A in her class, obviously, because I love math. But the thing that hit me, it wasn't the math or the fact that I crushed on her. I would always go to her class and ask about, questions and stuff, not to spend time with her because she actually wanted to help you. And she was saying something about faith, and I said, at the time, I said, I really don't believe in God. I really just don't. And I didn't at the time. She says, why not? Why not? I said, well, something can't always have been. It had to have a starting point. It can be and it can always be, but it can't. And she said the one line that I will never forget. She says, every time you say why, you have to say why not. And that's the basis of mathematics. And I thought, well, wow. She gave me some serious thought. And that's what actually turned my mind around to think that, well, why not can't these things happen? And why can't I still get high and believe that Jesus is Christ and all this different stuff? It's like one has nothing to do with the other. When I started learning about theology, I'm like, well, Christians aren't perfect. They just can ask forgiveness and like, okay, because they're forgiven for everything they've ever done, ever will do, and ever will do in the future. And you think, well, how can that be possible? It's like, well, there's this guy named Paul who his name was Saul, and he had this conversion and became Paul. Well, he was responsible. He's like the biggest advocate for Christianity in the Bible. Most of the epistles, the letters are written by him, but he's probably responsible for probably 2,500 people dying. So it's like, so why would God not allow him, not allow me, but allow him in heaven? So, I mean, all these people that come to their, yes?
But I've known some people, Christians, and they almost take that because I'm a believer, I'm going to be forgiven. They almost take that to a fault.
Well, of course they do. In
Like-
fact, Paul
Like,
addresses that.
I can, and it's like, it's not
Yeah.
a fucking get out of jail free card. There's
Exactly.
still some responsibility for that. There's still
Exactly.
some.
Well, like Paul says, those he uses that exact. He says, because God's grace is greater than your sin. Does that give you license to sin as you want? May it never be so. May you always adjust yourself. And I always tell people, we used to use those Zeiss Icon cameras that you had to turn and focus at the end. Well, that's what life's about. Every day you wake up and you're a little out of focus because it's really easy to get off the beaten path and start having sex with hookers. I mean, that kind of stuff. So
Right.
you just go, okay, wait a minute, adjust. And every day you just have to adjust, you know? So I'm sorry. That's the way I believe. It's like, am I forgiven? Yeah. Am I perfect? Hell no. Hell no.
No.
In fact,
Yeah.
a funny little side note is that I was having a trouble with something. I went to see my mentor at church, and they were putting up Christmas decorations, and the youth pastor was brand new. This guy, he's like 24, and I'm in there, and I'm emotional. I leave the office, and Scott told me later what happened. He said, Hank said, is Kelly okay? And this guy goes, yeah, I just told him he sounded like shit last Sunday. I mean, we're standing in the church and he says
Right.
that. So it's not, you're not perfect. You're just still a human being.
Right.
You just have a different set of beliefs. So.
But I think that's what makes it so hard for people to understand why people can have this belief. And it's because there is such a fine line there in between the fact that, there's still an expectation of being a good person and doing the right thing and having a cautious and also the fact that people that were good people, they bored Jesus. That was a snooze fest. He was surrounded by the worst of the worst, intentionally, handpicked them.
Yeah. In fact, one
So
guy
your
came.
way to get close to Jesus wasn't being a good person.
In fact, one guy came to him and said, look, I've done everything you asked me to do. I've done everything. What else do I need to follow you? He goes, well, and he knew he was talking to a rich man. He goes, sell everything you have and follow me. And the guy walked away because he realized how rich he was. So it's like, look, I don't have time for you. Like Jesus said, does a doctor spend time with people who are well, or does he go administer to the sick? So
Right.
it's a real.
A
Say.
wonderful quote I heard that along those same lines. I don't make it to church very often, but the last time I went, this awesome pastor got to me. He said, think of church as a hospital for sinners, not a country club for saints.
Exactly. Because
And back to that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, never. What's up, Rick?
Just said, I don't know. I'm a firm believer in, I'm not who I was a week ago. I have no idea who I'll be next week. Just that perpetual quest of trying to be better than the person I was yesterday. And it's a pretty linear experience on this planet. It's kind of hard to judge who I am, what I do, who I've been, all in one big lump thing. I've been on this planet a long time and hopefully going to be here a while. It's that perpetual quest to constantly just be a better person and do the right thing.
Well,
See,
Hopefully that'll add up.
Yeah,
but to me, even if you didn't, the fact that you acknowledge there's a difference, and I think that's in the core of everybody. Don't you believe? Don't you? If you were on an island, would you still have okay, you're on an island, right? You're born. There's like 3 people on the island, and you kill one of them. Would you not feel guilt? That's not a learned. That's internal, isn't it? Don't you think, Joe? The Trinity?
Well, see, I don't know. It's if you're on. I mean, if you read the book, was it the guys, the boys out there on the island? Holy smokes! What am I? I'm drawing a blank.
You talking about Gilligan's Island?
No, it's about a bunch of boys who
well,
crash
then I
on.
didn't read it if it's
They
above that.
crash land on a Lord of the Flies.
Oh,
Lord
okay,
of the
okay,
Flies
okay.
was about a bunch of middle school age kids that. And from a boarding military school that go down an island, and all of a sudden there's division and society's created on the other side of humanity because they're not too far from actually people discovering them, but they get very basal quickly. Because I had to do a paper about that, and I changed my opinion after I became a Christian because I believed that man was inherently good and made the choice to be bad. But I was telling Tony a couple of weeks ago, I said, we both, I don't know, Rick, do you have any children?
No, not yet.
So take a 2-year-old child, which both he and I have had, and that child starts walking to the kitchen, and you're like, hey, Miranda, don't touch the oven. And she turns around with a look like, fuck you, watch this. And she touches the oven, and she burns herself. It's like it's man is inherently bad and has a choice to be good. I'm sorry, we do. But now the thing that I want to appeal to people when I talk to them is like, look, everybody's broken. Everybody's got their worst case scenario that no one else can understand. Jesus just told his guys at the Last Supper, he goes, look, I'm going to give you a new commandment. I want you to love everybody like I love you. Now, you're not going to be able to do that because not everybody's going to die for you. But I want you to love them so much they'll think, man, this guy must be a Christian because he loves people so much. So my goal in life is to never advertise. And I do a lot of things that are anonymous, and I won't mention what they are online because somebody might know it, but I do a lot of things where people don't know who did it. And I don't do it for glory. I do it because someone had a need, and that makes me feel so good. I just want to die at that moment. So you can look at people get very righteous about, look what I've done. And even Jesus says, look, if you're going to pray to me, that's where I disagree with Catholic. I got 3 Catholics I know became Christian because of what I said. I said, look, tell me why I need to go in a box and do a confessional to a priest when Jesus tells me right here in Matthew that all I got to do is go to the closet and pray by myself because God already knows what I want. And he doesn't want me to
Right.
go on a street corner and raise my hands like and be all, pious about it.
Yeah.
So
No.
it's like all that's wrong. It's like it's a personal relationship. So
I was raised Catholic, and that was the most bullshit thing. You know what that was? That was the church, that was the priest, the church, whoever, because everybody in town went in and told what they fucking did wrong all week, right? So you had the shit on everybody. And then when it came time for contribution, or hey, we need this, oh fuck yeah, I'll help because what I told you fucking 3 weeks ago.
right. Well,
that I did or I was thinking or whatever. So
that just
what a
doesn't
scam.
work for me. Yeah. Well, the thing is that I don't need you to tell me those things because the Bible that you have, Catholic, and the one I have, they're the same minus a couple of chapters you have more than I do. But ours says the same thing on the same pages. Why are you doing it differently? So
my grandfather, who was a devout Catholic, who took us to church and all that, right? And I won't go into detail because of I'm not going to mention anything, but there was a family member that went to confession, maybe teen years, and then the priest is asking questions like, well, do you touch yourself, this and that, right, blah blah blah. And then the next thing I know, a week later, we're having this sit down with my grandfather where he's now explaining that, well, we're not going to go to confession. He doesn't say why, right, but he says because Jesus can hear you all the time. And I'm like, now that's a Catholic who sees the fucking light for the first time, right? And he was probably, 80 or 70. But that's it. You don't need to go in a box and tell some dude who's probably sins more than you do. I mean, these priests have been caught doing some shit, right?
Yeah, see, it kind of sucks because even Paul addresses, he says, look, if you are going to have sexual immorality, I'd rather you get married like Peter's married and this guy, or if you can be celibate, then just be like me and Barnabas. I said, where in the Bible does it say I'm not supposed to be married if I'm a priest? Where does it say that? Because every rabbi priest has a wife, so it didn't make sense to me.
Protestants do. Everyone else does. What? They create that situation by putting that rule on you, right? It's like, you can't do this. Well, shit, now it's the thing I want to do the most, right?
Well, they probably would have done girls if they had girls instead of choir boys. I mean, honestly, they would have.
Rick, you said you don't go to church a lot. I mean, I don't either because to me that's religion, and there's a difference between being a religion and being religious or a believer.
Faithful.
But when you were young, were you raised a certain way? Was religion a topic in the house?
Devoutly Catholic. My grandmother, especially, I spent the weekends with, extremely heavily Catholic. I was forced into Catholic mass. I went to CCD classes, Catholic school, and I was just kind of thinking about that. All the repetition and routine that comes with Catholic mass. One thing I will say I took away from it, although forced at a young age to go, I did grow to have some kind of spiritual connection with a higher power because it got me kind of in a weird way time to meditate. It was decades ago in a Catholic mass whenever I was a young child in my formative years. I remember going into mass. I remember sitting down. And then I remember just blanking out and meditating and then getting up and leaving, which doesn't really sound very beneficial or educational, but it really kind of, I don't know, maybe it gave me a quiet time, just a repetition, sit down, sit up, kneel, go to communion. It gave me a time to tune out and get in tune with myself.
Right.
They were very routine. I mean, you could set your watch to a Catholic mass, right? It's fucking 60 minutes. Not 1 minute over, because these guys, everyone everyone in church is like, I'm going fishing or I'm going to watch football. The other churches, they don't have a set time. But and if I had to give honor to one thing to being raised Catholic was the whole communion halfway through, and they did it every week. It's nice to have a little break, a little snack, a little something to sip on halfway through, right? It's like the 7-inning stretch in baseball. You're like, oh.
I love dark red wine. Amazing. I'll touch on this real briefly because it's not a subject I like to heavily get into. I'd mentioned this a little bit. My spirituality's changed a little bit, and I never used to view it like this. I had to read literature and do training and get mentally and spiritually fit to even acknowledge and accept the idea of a higher power. That 100% came from the last 5 years of recovery in AA. Not an avenue everybody takes, but back to the idea, whenever I used to drink real heavy, You know, I knew I had to drink to become a better person. If I had to stop drinking to become a better person, then I realized I had to become a better person to stop drinking. You know, that perpetual quest of trying to be the best version of myself.
Right.
You know, I learned a lot about daily trying to build a relationship with a higher power. You know, I just wasn't lucky enough that somebody tapped me on the shoulder with the magic wand, man. So just acknowledging that there's something bigger than me and having something to look up to was a great foot in the door for being a more spiritual person. You know, I don't have all the answers, but definitely starting to see that there's something bigger than me, and that's a positive step in the right direction.
Amen.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was awesome. Hey, that was such God. You almost. I'm not even kidding. You almost make me cry. That's so beautiful because
Yeah.
if you would have said, "Oh, I got it all figured out," well, that's
Well,
that's
I was-
not
I was-
inspirational.
I was going 2021. I was going to Georgia to see my relatives down there, watch a Braves game, and I'm stuck in Houston for 3 hours. Really bad weather, and I'm sitting there, and there's these two guys, and I got a Bible, I'm open reading, and one guy, not that he had the audacity, I think it just shocked him because I looked up right when he was looking down, and all he could say was like, "The Bible, huh?" I mean, it was like he didn't know what else to say. He was like, "I busted looking at you. I wanted to see what you were looking at," and I said, "Well, let me ask you something. Last year when they shut the world down, were you afraid?" And he said, "Hell yeah, I was afraid." I said, "I was petrified. I was terrified." And I said, and my mentor said, "Here, read this." And I started reading some stuff, and I opened this one thing, and it's from 2 Corinthians. Paul says it, and he says, "We are the aroma of Christ to God." The believers are walking amongst the living and the dead. And because I had a situation where my daughter, I stayed at my friend's house one night, and this is when my wife and I were split up. It was when I was working at Outback, and I left, and my ex-wife shows up with my daughter Miranda, and Miranda comes in the kitchen where they're talking, and she smells his pillow and says, "My daddy was here last night." And Dee Dee says, "No, he wasn't." And Jeff says, "Yes, he was." And that's what made me think of it. I mean, she could smell me on this pillow, and it made her feel good. And that's just, I told him, I said, that's what I have to find something in my life that it's fluffy, makes me feel good. There's scripture in there that talks to my heart. And is it for everybody? No, it's not. That's why Jesus spoke in parables, because you weren't supposed to understand it if it wasn't meant for you. You go, "Oh yeah, pebbles on the whatever," but these were stories that would hit people and go, "Whoa, that made me think." So it's not for everybody. It really isn't. But I mean, I'm very good at dealing with a higher power, because there's no way all this stuff could happen without somebody else's hand in besides that. That's just the way I feel about it.
Excuse me while I'm learning good podcast etiquette. It's hard not to talk over.
I'm just rude. Don't pay no attention to me.
So being as how I grew up devoutly Catholic, I didn't grow up really with a Bible in the house. Never went to Bible study.
Right.
It's new to me. Is this true? There's a whole book edited out of the Bible?
Well, it's
Enoch?
not. Well, see, it's not about editing out of the Bible. You can see the thing is, it's not canonized. I mean, it's a great book. I've read it, and it's some great stuff in there, but it's not necessary for there's a whole committee that got together, a committee of Rome, I think is what, and they all got together and said, "Look, we need to agree on the Bible, the books of the Bible." Now, the Catholics have extra books in the Bible. They like First and Second Maccabees, and I think there's Third Maccabees, some other things that go on in there that aren't in a Christian Bible. And a Catholic Bible has different books in the Old Testament. They're not in the Old Testament of a Christian Bible. And think about this: the Catholic Bible was broken away by King James, who said, "I want to have a divorce," and the Catholic Church said no. He says, "I'm going to go start my own church." And so he started this other movement where the Episcopalians, Protestants, all this stuff came out of it. But that came out of the fact that he wasn't able to do that. So you have a different in theology there. So there are different degrees of faith. And it's like, what you have to do is you have to realize that you have a conscience. Like you were talking about, good and bad. You know the difference, because inherently we do. And before they had law, they had to understand conscience, because they didn't have law until Moses came down from the Ten Commandments. They didn't have law. They had tribal laws and commandments, but nothing that was this mighty thing. So it's tough to deal with people. And I tell people, look, I'm not religious at all. I'm faithful. Religious means I'm following a bunch of rote things. No. I'm talking about, I understand someone made me. And because of that, I'm thankful. And I feel his presence all the time. I've asked questions, and I've given answers, and I've talked to people, and they're like, "How did you know that?" I really don't want to get into it with you, but it's like things happen to me all the time that cannot be explained other than I've been given a gift of something. Windfalls. My wife we need to pray for $10,000 a day and she'll get 13 grand in on the last day of the month. Holy smokes, make your numbers. It's like, to me, that's not like, whoo, that's so lucky. It's like, no, stop and thank God for giving you that blessing, that unmerited favor that's what grace is favor that's not earned. And that's what God promises you. I'll give you grace if you just believe that my son did what he did. And so it makes it very simple for me because that's all I have to do. And then I get all these gifts. So I'm really enjoying Christianity. It's a lot of fun. But
something great for me to take away from tonight. Thank you for that.
Well, the thing that also my Catholic cousin, his wife, Michelle, she's now a devout Christian. She gave me her crucifix and I've got it. I wear it, don't have it on, but I wear it. It's called an ichthus, the fish. It's called an ichthus in Greek. It means fish. And I took off I wore that for a little while for her because she gave up Catholicism because she understands. She goes, I didn't learn anything in Catholicism. I said, I know, because you had a guy up there that was doing all your thinking for you. He intercessed in your prayer for you. He told you what your penance was. That's not what it's about. I said, the most important thing I want everybody who's Catholic to notice, what is behind every podium in a Catholic church on the wall?
Jesus Christ. Why
is Jesus still on the cross when your Bible, his Bible, and their Bible says telestai, which means means my work. I'm finished. To telestai means the work is done. I'm done. He said that and he died. Okay, so why are you still on the cross? Because you're doing the work for him. You're not. Christian crosses are empty. If you notice that there's a big difference between an empty cross and a cross that's got Jesus on there.
I never thought about that. That
Most
is
people
amazing because
don't.
I have a cross from when I was young and it's Catholic and Jesus is on it.
That's right. But if his work is done, the feeling on the back of your neck, the hairs on the back of your neck, devil's angels, that's your conscience. That's also the Holy Spirit. And that's what I operate. That kind of gives me my, hey, you shouldn't do this, you should do this kind of thing. And I listen to it because it's never wrong on me. And when I counter it is when I get myself in trouble. So.
You know, when I lived in Utah, the Mormons, well, my deli was right across from a cemetery, right? And my neighbor had a candy shop and he was Mormon. And I asked him one day, I'm like, dude, because he was my Mormon info dude.
Right.
And I'm like, how come in the cemetery there's no crosses? There's just tombstones. And he's like, oh, well, the Mormons don't celebrate the crucifixion of Christ and his death. And I'm like, well, that was the whole point. You're missing the boat, right? Is that?
Well, the best way to describe the Bible, it's about one man and two events. It's about the coming of Christ, and that starts from the point when they're putting blood over the doorways in Egypt when they're escaping. That's the Passover. And he was the Paschal lamb. He used a perfect lamb. Jesus was the perfect lamb. He never sinned.
Right.
That's the whole metaphor he's trying to teach them. God was trying to teach him. So there's one story about his death, the story about his resurrection, and it's about Jesus. So it's the coming and the going and about Jesus. That's it, man. Because he didn't come to change anything. He even said, look, I'm just telling you what was said back here. I even have a Jewish friend of mine. She's 71. I've never met her. But we talk, it's called the Tanakh. That's what the Jewish Bible is. I've got one of those also, and I study that with her. And she doesn't believe she says a lot of things now which make me think she's a closeted Christian, and she's afraid to mention it because the Jewish faith, well, she is. The Jewish faith is shunning. She goes to a synagogue that's so orthodox, the women sit up in the balcony and the men sit down below. They aren't even sitting together. Okay, so it's a whole different. Now, also, if you're shunned by the church, you're shunned by the community. And back in that time, like this, Jesus healed this blind boy, and they sent him to the priest so he could be declared. And he said, they said, well, wait a minute, who healed you? I don't know. I couldn't see when he did it. Bring your parents. The parents did not want to get involved. They said, well, he's old enough to make up his own mind. Because if they said yes, they said he was blind when we knew him. I don't know what happened. You have to talk to him. He's old enough to stand up for himself. Because if they had agreed with him, they would have been shunned from the church. They would have lost their business. They would have had to move out of town. So it was really a big deal, really a big deal. So I love the idea of Christianity. I really do. It gives me an understanding of who I am and what I'm about and what I need to be in my life. And it's like, I believe that everyone should be a selfless servant to the other person. And I've given more than one time, I've given a brand new Land's End jacket to Sue to give to somebody, give this to that person over there. If you tell me about he was cold, here, I'm a glutton to have 3 jackets. Here, take these 2. I mean, it's like I have no problem taking off. I mean, taking money out of my pocket, giving, the nice thing about being a deacon in my church is I have access to a lot of gift cards. So I'll go and there, we'll find homeless people and we'll bless them with $250 worth of gas and gift cards because we know that they're out there living like the Clampetts in their truck in a parking lot somewhere. So that gives me a lot of joy to be able to help somebody like that. And that's what it's about. I mean, love people like I've loved you, and then they'll know that you're my servant. And I'm okay with that. And so, and then I think the craziest thing is people, when I first started praying in public with people, it made them nervous, but then they're starting to lean in like, hey, I want a piece of that. And I've had people come up to me and say, do you think you could pray for me? It's like, sure, no problem. Right. So it's like everybody wants to be involved, but they're afraid to make the commitment. It really is weird.
Right.
What say you, Rick?
Service work. I'm all about it. It's not always financial for me. Sometimes I think the heaviest gift I can give is my time. Currently, I'd taken a job there for a while, but I decided to do other things professionally. But I still go back there and volunteer twice a week. The Denver Rescue Mission houses 700 adult men. It's huge.
Nice.
I go there, volunteer cook, and I definitely don't have it all together by any means, but I also found my way there as a resource navigator. Telling these guys where to get free phones, telling these guys where the food banks are, telling these guys where the clothes banks are. Not only was I a client in Silver Living Homes for a while, I also became a manager of them.
Nice.
So I've been hand in hand in those things for the last couple of years. And, I don't know. I don't really view it as anything that's going to get me a halo. It's just something that I needed to do to fill a part of me that was empty. I don't know.
Nice.
Like I got to unbox an iPhone for a guy that just got out of prison that's been in there since 1987. You never seen a smartphone, man.
Wow.
It's wild experience, So something I personally got into heavily again, kind of AA recovery stuff based, but I enjoy it, man. Also kind of why I made the transition into more working in healthcare, retirement homes, and nursing homes. I don't have a lot of family, and it gives me somewhere to be on the holidays, keeps me in check.
Nice.
So Rick, in AA, they follow the 12 steps.
Sure.
Joe, I know they're not necessarily affiliated with the church, but is there a Christian or a Jesus or a Bible overtone in this fact that if there's 12 steps, there was 12 apostles? Is there a connection between the 12 steps? I don't know them, but is there a biblical connection in regard to how to live your life?
Well, see, Rick would probably be able to tell you better than I would. But the original, what was the name? They when you always want to find out if somebody knows what they said, do you know so and so? What's his name that started it?
Bill W.
Bill W. Do you know who Bill W. is? And if you say no, or if you say yeah, I know who it is, then they know you're in AA. That's like a.
That's the code. You guys just told me the code.
The code. That's the code. But
I've
had two people ask me that in my life. Do you know who Bill W. is? I said yeah. Wow, I said, but I've only gone with people as guests for them, but I've never needed to go for myself.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not 100% sold on it. It's a very selfish idea and a very selfish program. Take away what helps you and leave what doesn't. 12 Steps is 100% not religious.
Right.
It's very much built on what's inside of you and what you can fix and what you can do better. It's all based on being honest, open-minded, and willing. Having a fearless, self-searching inventory of your own morality, who you've been, and how you can progress and move on. Again, it's back to really doesn't have as much to do with not drinking, is more of a learning on doing the right things to become a better person. Everything else comes after that. I'm no saint. I still have my weekends that could rival the works of Hunter S. Thompson, but I've been around enough AA people, and around enough people that have really done the work to change their lives that it's extremely inspiring, and daily it makes me want to be a better person.
Nice.
Fantastic.
One thing I was going to mention today before we change a quick subject really fast since we're running out of time. I was excited to tell you guys I had the best breakfast sandwich I've ever had in my entire life today, and it was really weird how they made it.
Tell us about it, please. I'm hungry.
I'll make it quick. So I go to this tiny little bodega coffee shop in my neighborhood, a real hipster place downtown Denver. No food, no kitchen equipment, not even a microwave, strictly coffee. And this girl had these young girls probably get in there at 4 a.m. to open the joint. I was like, where'd you get that breakfast sandwich? It looks amazing. She's like, I made it. I was like, what? She goes, yeah, check this out. It's a popular thing they're doing now. Now they clean it and sanitize it because I was skeptical at first. They're taking scrambled eggs in their little milk frother steel cup and scrambling eggs in the wand for the milk frother in the cappuccino shops now and making breakfast sandwiches.
Wow.
I was like, you're doing what? She put, sure enough, her little steel cup, she put scrambled eggs in it and then put it in the steam wand for the milk. And I didn't even eat bread anymore, but she put it on like an everything bagel. And I don't know, it was weird. It was like a really firm custard. Best scrambled egg I've ever had out of a cappuccino machine. This
No
morning.
Wow.
kidding. How fluffy can that be,
No
right?
kidding.
It was delicious. Weird, huh?
Like a flan or like a quiche or something, you know?
Yeah, or like a
Yeah.
meringue. Or
But it was firm. I don't know. It didn't come out like that. I
Steamed
don't know. It was
eggs.
just
It's like a poached scrambled egg. It's like
it was weird.
Wow.
It was firm. I don't know. It blew my mind. Sounded kind of gross at first. But
well, you have me
Anyways.
sold on to everything bagel. I love it.
yeah, right.
Well, yeah,
But
Yeah.
even if you didn't put anything inside, it's like, wow, this is the best. This is a great sandwich.
Right. Yeah, I don't hardly ever eat bread anymore, but that was a treat. It was pretty good. But it just freaked me out when she did it. I thought I knew it all. Once again, I do not.
I'm gonna throw this in because he mentioned Georgia. Rick. I don't know. You're from Kansas, so do they call in Kansas? Is it soda or is it pop?
Soda.
Soda. Okay, so because I figured you were far Midwest enough, but maybe not. Because there's regions where it's soda, it's pop, and then as Joe was saying, because he's a Southern boy, he's an Atlanta boy. Right? It's
Yeah.
just Coca-Cola or Coke, not Coca-Cola.
Coke.
It's Coke,
I'm gonna
and then
get
you
a
have
Coke.
to say, "Oh, I'll have a Coke, make it a Sprite."
Well, it's like you say,
Yeah.
I'm going to get it. Well, you want a Coke? Yeah. What kind do you want? I want grape. I want Coca-Cola. That's a regular Coke is a Coca-Cola. So you have to specify.
So you guys know what Fanta is,
Oh yeah, it's a Coke product.
and here's how Fanta came along. Even though Coke has it, the Nazi Germany, they invented it and started creating Fanta because during World War II, Coca-Cola company wouldn't send them Coca-Cola. They were fucking like no dice, and they were cut off from Coca-Cola, so they created Fanta.
Strange but true facts. What do you know about that, huh?
Those were true facts. Well,
Worse than that, I'd heard the original recipe of Fanta, what they were trying to make a refreshing drink out of was some of the foulest things I've ever heard. Wasn't there like moldy, rotten bread scraps, fruit scraps? It was something that was not appeasing before they went back and
Moldy.
bought the Coca-Cola recipe. Look up what original Fanta was. It sounded
Well,
foul.
Fresca. I used to drink Fresca and by the quart. I love that stuff, and that is a grapefruit flavored beverage.
so Fresca is not like a 7-Up.
It's like a squirt, but it's made with grapefruit instead of lemons.
I remember Squirt. Yeah, that's not a bad soda. I grew up in Detroit, so Verner's in Michigan was
Yeah.
the big thing, right?
Yeah, Vernors.
Stomachache, Verner's everywhere.
Yeah.
Ginger ale. But well, listen, Rick, fantastic having you on. Joe's going to sign us off. We'll and Rick has been also one of our #1 fans. Appreciate your feedback, Rick.
Yeah.
And we will have you on again. And it was fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Well,
Thank
Joe?
you. Thanks.
we want to thank you, Rick, for coming to spend some time with us. We learned something from you, and I hope you took away something from the show as well. So thank you so much for your time. Gentlemen, peace out and be good
Peace
human
out.
beings. Take care now.
Be safe. Thanks, guys.